Welcome to the channel. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. And as you guys know, we are at the start of the 11/11 sale. And what I'm going to do for today, I've revisited all the watches that are reviewed from the start of this year, 2025. And this list is a list of, all types of watches at various price points, but with something in common. They represent great value for money and they all finished really well. And I've picked only the ones which showed me something special, something which stood out. I mean, I reviewed a lot of watches, but also it doesn't mean that the rest of the watches are rubbish. They're no good, but these are just, the cream of the crop pickings, or for certain reasons, which I'm going to explain. Now, there's about 14 to 15 watches, so what I'm not going to do is start mentioning all the specifications, dimensions, the prices, etc. They'll all be linked within the description, so it just takes a quick link to check it out, just to make sure it's got the right, dimensions you're after, which is kind of the main thing, because the specs, they're all pretty much spec'd out. Remember, these are all watches which I have handled personally over the course of this year. So let's make a start with the St. Martin SN0144, the ultimate GADA watch. Now, what is there to say really? They conquered, with this watch, absolutely. They came up with 36 millimeter diameter, a 39 and a 42, and multiple dial options. Amazing case finishing. It uses the Miyota 9000 movement, and yeah, the dial work has been really stunning on this watch, with the Zhang style, and they've gone for many different types out of this one base watch, and they have knocked it out of the park with this release. And as I said, they've made a fair few models off the back of this one. Now, I think this is probably their best watch, which actually has that personality and represents St. Martin as a brand. Only thing is that I think the crown is a little bit boring, but the rest is fantastic. Next up, we've got a watch from SH Watch. This is that forged carbon PRX homage. Now, SH Watch are quite a small brand. They don't have many models, but the ones they do have, they're quite impressive. None more so than this 40mm forged carbon PRX alternative. Comes with a PT or a SW200 option, and it's a very reasonable price. And it's all about the dial on this one and the casework. It's very unique. It's got a unique grain, unique pattern due to that forged carbon look, and it's something very different to what you might have in your watch collection. It's going to really hit that stealthy look, and it does show up really well on the wrist. Next up, moving on to the Watchdives WD1965, which is a 62 mass homage. 62 mass is one of my favorite watches, and there have been some really awesome homage releases by various brands. All have been quite good, actually. The seestern one, when that came out, really smashed it with theirs, and then St. Martin came with a revised, was it a 37 or 38, which was incredible, really excellent with the classical looks. But I think this Watchdives really topped them all. It's got quartz, it's the right size, it's got some really gorgeous styles, and it has incredible build quality. Now, next up is the Sinn homage by Milifortic, the 556 homage, and this was unexpected. I definitely love those Sinn visuals. They did make a couple of slight changes soon after I had this one for review, but this is the one that I did review, and I've kept it till date. And I wore it for such a long time. There's great simplicity in the watch. The case is very impressive and finished well above the price point these are going for. And I have this lovely lime green type of dial, and I think that's also a great option. So I think this is great for a daily, quite understated sports field watch. Now, next on the list, we've got the Thorn Tuna GMT Landmaster. Now, I love this one particularly because it brought back why I got into homage watches and why I made this channel. The homages back then mainly consisted of Seiko homages, particularly those out of reach models. So this Thorn brought that back with a titanium case tuner, with a Landmaster homage, but with the SNR GMT visuals on the dial. Now, I love the nostalgia it brought back. The build quality was really decent too, and it had those classic looks. Next, we're going to a seestern. This is the S456 GMT, or more precisely, the GS Sports, GMT homage. Now, this one is an outlier because I reviewed this in 2024, but early December. But I do feel I need to bring this into 2025. This has got to be the best watch seestern has made in terms of absolute high-end finishing. It's definitely the best sports GS homage out there. This one left a huge impression on me. Everything felt top-notch. The finishing on the case was absolutely wow. The indices, right, the dial work, I still haven't seen indices as sharp or as highly detailed as these, even across St. Martin watches. I'll have some pictures I'll be putting up. Those were some of the best indices I've seen on a dial. The hands were excellent. And the dark blue one caught me off guard on how much class it had with the understated dark blue visual. And one that really pops is that green one with the white mother of pearl dial, and it's absolute class. And yes, they did have an oversight on the clasp. The clasp they have currently on there does work, it's doable, but that was the perfect opportunity to put an on-the-fly adjustable clasp on there. If they had, it would have been one of the greatest watches on AliExpress from brands that we know. So now we're moving on to the Watchdives GADA equivalent of the St. Martin, the WD6003. This one, wow, absolutely phenomenal and ridiculous at the same time. I'd say it's the ultimate best value for money watch ever. The finishing was comparable to the St. Martin that we looked at the start of the video. There were a few skeptics, but my review was backed also by the people who did own one. The satin brushing, the polishing, the crisp transitions were ridiculously good. They had great dial choices and obviously stupidly low prices and a solid quartz, hybrid quartz watch. And we just saw the Elementum on my channel, which is the same thing effectively. They've just named it now, and they've improved that little issue they had on the end link with the finishing wasn't up to scratch, and that was the only issue. It's a small thing, but they ended up sorting that out now, and the watch is absolutely drop dead gorgeous, and it's got around 15 different dial options. So it's definitely one to consider if you want a top-notch sports dress watch for a relatively small amount of money. So now we move on to a watch which it caught me off guard, and to be honest, I love being caught off guard when I have little or no expectations of a watch or a brand. So this Eniton, what an impressive watch, right? Literally turned me into a fan of the Cartier design, and it was something which I never really considered in my whole watch hobby. Now, one reason behind that was that the finishing was to a very high standard. It was superb. The brushing, the case angles, the shape, the curvature, everything they nailed. Because you've got to execute designs properly. If it's poorly executed, it wouldn't have made me consider, that style or that shape. And I think one of the best things about it was the fact that they managed to replicate that quick release mechanism on the end of the end links. Unfortunately, they didn't do that for the bracelet links. However, still a very impressive watch, and it comes with the Miyota 9000 movement. So it's definitely worth a look because it did have impressive wrist presence even on my 6.5-inch wrist. And I'd say it's probably the best homage of this particular design without going over to the world of reps. And the next one on the list is a Specht and Sohne Landmaster. Now, whether you like this particular design or not, the reason I chose this in this video is previously when I've looked at a handful of SNS watches, they have actually looked their price, which was not impressive. They looked cheap. The finishing wasn't great. It was a bit scruffy, and I wasn't really impressed by them. But when this came out, I thought, all right, let's check it out again, because the pictures looked, I don't know, somewhat better, but I thought let's just take a look. And they did significantly improve the finishing, the build quality, and it actually was quite impressive for what the price was. So it does make it awesome value for money. And if you are looking for that particular type of design, SNS is the one. Now let's talk about another sort of odd little watch that I found, and this was the Borman, right? The green dial Borman watch. Now this one again was totally unexpected. It's the first Borman watch I've looked on the channel, and I think the watch is wholly underrated. It's not really out there, but it deserves a hell of a lot more recognition. It's a rare find as well, because it's got, and when I say this, I mean every word, it's got that classy, understated aura, and it's got lots of aura, and one of the main things which does that is that peculiar pale sage green sunburst, and you can't actually catch the exact color properly on camera. And a couple of people pointed that out who owned one, and yeah, it's the best I could do with the tools I have available. But the watch dial is amazing to look at. And it's not just the dial, the overall watch is really well built. It's got a great mix of polishing and satin brushing with crisp definition between the two. It does carry the Miyota 8215, and it is very reasonable priced. I'd say it's the perfect sports watch with just plenty of class. Now we move on to the PH2 by Phorcydes. Now, what can I say about this watch? Well, I've got it in hand, right? That's saying enough as it is. This watch really resonated with me. And let me just say, since I reviewed this, this has not left the wrist, and I've worn it daily. So I don't know how long ago that was, and this has been on my hand for, you know, every day. I've only removed it to test other watches and then put this back on. Now I ended up finding what I think is a perfect strap. I slapped a Merca strap on this. So a few people don't like this. I think it's a lot of people, but I think it really suits the aesthetics down to a T. It gives you that perfect, robust and vintage style of dive watch. And I absolutely love the Fathoms inspiration, that slim bezel, the loom blocks, and obviously the K shape. And one thing about the K shape is that it reminds me slightly of the 6.2 Mass 2. And they have now added a beads of rice bracelet, which looks stunning. So I can't recommend this watch enough. It's one of those watches that it actually does stand out from the crowd, and it's like the perfect reissue if they ever did one. It's a vintage design with modern specs, and even if this watch was £200 to £300, I'd still buy it, but it's much cheaper than that. Now move on to one from Militado. This was the Sinn Quartz Diver Homage. Amazing release, to be honest. I love the aesthetics and the build quality, and on the side note, I am loving these Sinn homages that are coming out from everywhere. Yeah, my only reservation in that video was that the size, even for someone like me who likes small watches, I'd say it was a touch small. Maybe if they made it a 40 to a 41 to even a 42 with a relatively compact lug to lug, it would be perfect in my opinion. But it still is a great watch if you prefer that small diver look with obviously those Sinn aesthetics. So now we move on to one from Heimdallr, which I reviewed quite recently. The reason I like this one, right? So these guys, Heimdallr, they hold quite an esteemed place in the world of homages. If you all remember when we first got into AliExpress, I'm talking about 5-6 years ago, Heimdallr were the one, right? They were one of the staples. And these guys have been inactive for such a long time that I was excited to see even a revamp of the Godzilla. But this watch is excellent, right? They've made some subtle improvements over the older one. Main changes being this H-link bracelet, which does suit that angled faceted case really well, and obviously that wonderful helical dial, super sharp cuts, HD definition and details with high micro detailing across the hands, dial, indices, you name it. And I'd say it's a solid watch overall, right? The polishing, brushing, as I said, the faceted case, it just feels great and quite robust in hand. And it's bigger too, right? It's not a small watch. It's I think it's around the 43, 44 mil, whatever, but you can see that on the listing. It does have an awesome wrist presence. It's a mix between, a big watch, but, with that high-end class and finishing, and that awesome dial. You can't, get away from that. And the next one we have is the Milifortic. It's the one I reviewed recently. It's the Alpinist homage. And yeah, it is a little pricier, right, than it should have been. But the NH35s have doubled in price, and nobody really has made a true Alpinist homage, with the dual crowns. And yeah, you guys saw the review, and if you didn't, please check it out, because I put this up against both my genuine Seiko Alpinist watches, and the Seikos don't really stand out as anything special over this Milifortic. And that's a testament to how well executed this watch is. But overall, in a nutshell, they absolutely smashed it. The only thing I really want is at this price, they need to give us a bracelet. So now it's time for honorable mentions. And this one, these are last minute editions. And I was going to add specific models, but to be honest, forget it, right? All I need you to do is go to the Watchdives website, close your eyes and randomly buy anything that you can click on, because it's going to be awesome. It's at that level. We recently saw in my latest unboxing a £140 Miyota 9000 movement Explorer homage with on-the-fly clasp and screw pins. We saw that 7.5mm Nautilus homage, which was absolutely mind-blowing with the quartz movement. They have an amazingly high-end Ranger homage. They've got Aquaterra homages with pearl dials, and these are well below like £80. So it's absolutely insane, and I'd say they are the brand of 2025 for sure. And you are better off going to the website because they have some awesome deals. I've picked one up which I'm going to review quite soon for 60 quid. It's insane, right? I could literally make a whole other video going through each model and telling you why they're so good, but this is something for you to do. Go onto the website, take your time to explore the site, and you'll find some awesome deals, I guarantee that. So that is it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed it, even if it was just for the information. If you like anything, then the links are within the description and I would appreciate if you use them. So thank you all for watching and I'll see you on the next video.